And I can just remember looking for the machete up to a teacher, and their eyes were almost popping out of their sockets. So I remember being told it had gone viral on MySpace. I didn't have a laptop, didn't have a MySpace, didn't have any of that stuff at that time, and I was just, oh well, what does it mean? I was actually quite disappointed with the film when it came out. Don't get me started on the blooming algorithm. You know, there's too much to tell. I was always into mountain bikes, but...
Danny MacAskill, welcome to the Downtime podcast, mate. Thanks for welcoming us up to Scotland.
Pleasure. Yeah, good to be on.
Yeah, nice one, man. I've done a lot of research for this. In that research, I discovered there was a MacAskill museum in Dunvegan on the Isle of Skye, run by your father, which I expected to be full of Danny MacAskill's bikes, but it's not even about Danny MacAskill.
No, it does have one of my bikes in there. One of the bikes from my old Inspires from the way back home. But my dad runs the giant Angus MacAskill Museum, which is about one of my ancestors who was 7'9" tall. So I think it's like 2 meters 40 something. I can't remember in metric. But what you'll find in there is, well, my dad, for one, he's the sort of main event there. Really, he's a total character. I'm becoming more of a character every day. But there's also a life-size mannequin of, scaled to Angus MacAskill, and there's a bed that's the right size for him, some socks, some a replica coffin.
No way.
Yeah, no, much. My mum didn't like that one when he built that, but it's a fun place. So if you're ever on the Isle of Skye, it's well worth a trip in to see my dad.
Yeah. And Angus was like super strong as well. There's rumours of him lifting a full-size horse over a fence.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Angus was world famous for his strength and different feats, back in the day, it was around about sort of 1830 he was born, and of course boats were the way to get around the world. He travelled. He was born in Burner in the Outer Isles, Scotland, and then moved out to Nova Scotia, and then he travelled the world kind of doing like an act. He was like a strong man in circus, and I think he met one of the queens back in the day and stuff, and did some strength feats like lifting a 2,200 pound anchor or something like that.
No way. So you're not the first performer in the family then?
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's good fun, a fun story, and it's funny that my dad does that as a full-time job. So yeah,
that's awesome. So you grew up in Dunvegan on the Isle of Skye. For people that don't know that place or even the Scottish Highlands, like just paint the picture a little bit of Dunvegan.
Dunvegan's just it's a small village in the northwest of Skye. Probably about, I don't know if there's like 200 folk that live there. Mainly just the village just follows the road, the main kind of street. It's also quite famous for a castle called Dunvegan Castle. It's been there for over 1,000 years and got some cool history with lots of fairy stories. Quite famous for fairies on the island. They tend to lure men into the bogs who disappear. Very conveniently disappear forever, usually playing their pipes or something. You can usually hear the pipes playing on the misty nights. But it's a beautiful place. Not exactly the prime place to grow up to learn how to ride trials, but it was just a really fun. I loved growing up on Skye. Had a lot of freedom to kind of.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a lot of fun. I want to talk a bit about your childhood, and to quote you from your own book. Destruction was my thing. Yeah,
well, you could say like boys will be boys, but I grew up just happened in my sort of primary school or in even my playgroup kind of time. There was a lot of boys my age. We all kind of grew up together. All our parents had the sort of same attitude of just letting us kind of really just go out and wander about and play on the shores, play in the forests, up on the mountains and stuff. So yeah, and of course you like to just, it's cool building things, but it's also equally as fun to just, boulder rolling off cliffs when we were kids was quite a big pastime, or, fires and whatnot. But
yeah, we've all been there. I nearly set my childhood bedroom on fire, which I don't think my parents know about today, but I only just got it under control.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to go through those processes of learning. I feel quite lucky to have grown up in the sticks where, I suppose the sort of mischief we'd get up to was not causing really anybody any problems. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
There was a story that I particularly liked of a machete at a Punch and Judy show.
Yes, yeah. It was like primary 2, found Grandad's old World War machete from back in the day and stuffed it in my school. It was so big it didn't even fit into my school bag. That's how big this thing was. And I remember having my bag, we all sat down in the gym hall cross-legged, had my school bag out, and I just had this machete out of the sheath, showing my pals that were either side of me. We were like, whoa, going to build some good dens of that. And I can just remember looking for the machete up to a teacher, and their eyes were almost popping out of their sockets. So, and I even got given back. That's the thing, I got given it back at the end of the day, or maybe on my parents. I can't remember exactly how it went, but you know.
Can you imagine that today? Like the whole school would have been closed, everyone out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Different
Yeah,
world,
I mean,
eh?
it wasn't. There was lots of different tools that were taken into primary school, but
Nice. So lots of energy, obviously, as a child. Like, how did that start getting channeled into riding bikes?
I suppose I kind of got into riding bikes. Really, I can remember just being really into riding bikes from the very first time I even started learning how to ride bikes, and almost straight away was trying to do little jumps and wheelies. I don't know what inspired that.
Yeah, you'd not seen, and it wasn't anything around at that time.
It's hard to say. I mean, the cartoons back in the day were just so good, you know. I look back at the sort of 80s, 90s cartoons, and you got to say they were pretty kick-ass.
Yeah.
You got like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Mask, Transformers, all that kind of stuff. And there'd be quite a lot of motorbikes and Chinook helicopters and things blowing up and just generally pretty cool. And I'd imagine that those probably had some kind of effect. And I'm sure I would have seen some stuff on TV, but basically just was always into jumping my body around, and that translated to my bike. And then used to cycle up and down to primary school every day on the bikes, and you'd race all the kids, you know, jumping off all the curbs, and that kind of thing. And my riding, I would just be the one out of my friends. It was the smallest one, and my friends would always be getting me to try to jump off the highest wall or whatever, you know. And from about 8 years old, I remember being up on, I kind of eventually got up, I was jumping off like the local bottle bank. In my village, it was about 6 foot to flat on a 16-inch wheel rally burner, just slipping pedals and having a terrible time. But that was before I even knew what trials was. So.
Fair play. And was it chain spotting, I think, was one of the first things that turned your eye to realise other people were doing similar stuff? Like there was an inspiration from that.
Yeah, for sure. It was, sorry, I keep on going.
You're right.
Terrible that. Sorry for the listeners. I'll try and keep it smooth. My friends, older brother, James Sutton, they got some really cool, what are they called? It was like a Claude Butler he had or something with Marzocchi Z2 BAMs in it.
Yes.
I remember he kind of got this bike, and it was a big inspiration for us to kind of follow him around. I'd be still in this rally burner, or had like a 24-inch mountain bike at the time. And I was round at my friend's house, and they put on a new videotape that they got, which was Chain Spotting. And if those who haven't watched Chain Spotting, highly recommend searching on YouTube, because it's there and it's absolute classic.
Yeah, I'll stick links in show notes for people to find that.
It's just so good. It's got Steve P, Rob Warner, and importantly for me, it had Martyn, Ashton, Martin Hawes and Hans Ray all in there, doing like a road trip around California for quite a lot of it. And it's just class. You know, it just sells the dream of mountain biking. And for me, I sort of realised the kind of riding I was doing was trials riding. So started trying to copy some of what you were seeing. There's actually now something informing your brain as to what's possible, I guess. Yeah, and it was just I sort of realised, well, jumping off walls to flat was a thing. You know, I was never very good at riding transition. Maybe just because it was so wet up where I lived. Trying to build jumps out of mud and things wasn't really the ticket, whereas I did have some pavements outside my house. I was fortunate enough to have some street lights in my village as well. I know it sounds like a silly thing to say, but without, you know, it just meant I could ride at night.
Yeah, I guess a lot of Skye wouldn't have had street lights,
yeah,
right?
like a lot of my friends. I lived in the central business district of Dunvegan, which had the shops. Even had like a gun shop and a small. We called it the gun shop because there was like a sort of fish and tackle kind of gun shop type thing, and a little shopping centre that had a little covered kind of roof. It had a few flower beds and a few steps, and I would just go along there most nights or just out in the rain. And the sort of the peat smoke would be drifting through the village. I would be the only person out, apart from the local policeman who'd be usually chasing me about, taking me home by the ear. But trials really kind of gave me something to do in my evenings.
And you rode alone a lot, right? Did you live a bit further away from some of your school friends and stuff, or like what drove that?
It was just a lot of my friends just happened to live outside the village that I lived, I mean, in a lot of ways, I kind of feel lucky that I grew up riding a lot by myself. It's meant I've been quite happy with my own company, and I think most folk, to get to a certain level in any sport, you've got to put your time in, of course. And I think for me, I'd put a lot of my time in by myself, so it meant I learned a lot of sort of maybe slightly more unique moves than you might do if you were riding with pals and learning the same things. You know, I did have some friends around the island that we'd meet up at the weekends or to ride together, but I mean, I still to this day still love riding myself.
Yeah. What kind of hours were you putting in then as a kid? Was it literally like finish school, get changed, go out?
Yeah, like every day, just go out. If I wasn't, I just go ride the trials bike every day. I did have some cool fishing nets in my garden, which took up quite a lot of my time, where I had them all strung up. We'd go beachcombing and find these nets and then string them between the trees. And then it was like having kind of like the base one would be like, say, 40, 50 feet by 30 feet, stretched tight.
Yeah.
And then you could dive from about, 18, 20 feet down onto that. And I would have like 15 of my friends, right? I mean, my garden was the place that all my friends got dropped off, at summer holidays or something. All the parents go to work. But because my dad ran this museum, there was at least an adult somewhere in the. I mean, my dad didn't care at all. We would just be up to no good the whole time. But
did everyone come out unscathed?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Amazingly, there was not a single injury. I mean, there's maybe a few nails through feet, and I mean, I had certainly quite a few X-rays when I was younger, but not. That was mainly from the bike.
Yeah,
I think so much so there might have been. I can't remember if there was maybe like a flag up on like the children's sort of safety.
Really?
Yeah. I kind of went through a bit of a phase of like crashing quite a lot, and I think it was, I think if you have so many X-rays in a year, you kind of get flagged up a bit.
Yeah, social security starts to come back in. Yeah,
that was all my own doing, of course.
Good work. And the sort of riding that you do, like, there's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of same place, same thing over and over to try and get these techniques dialed and to get these tricks perfected. So patience and perseverance are like a huge part of it, I guess. Did that come naturally to you as a person, especially as a child? Because I think most children are fairly impatient individuals normally.
I mean, I suppose I never had I can't really honestly say I had that many goals with my riding when I was younger. I would just do what I could constantly. So if I learned something new, I would just repeat it over and over again. And it wasn't like I was watching Martyn Ashton, Martyn Hawes, Hands, reading MBUK every month and going, I've really, sort of dreamed to be exactly like that. It was just, I was just kind of happy to just be doing what was in my village.
Okay.
I was stuck with what I had. I mean, I had a bunch of pallets, started building some trials in the back garden. But it wasn't about being able to do, I wasn't like striving to learn how to 360 off a wall. It'd just be like, I don't know. It was just like a game that I was just really into the game of it.
Yeah.
And not to be anything in it. It was just like, just do it for fun. So I'd say the repetition and that just comes completely naturally.
Okay. There was never any like frustration. Certainly at that age, it was all enjoyable.
Yeah, no, all purely
Yeah.
enjoyable, all purely enjoyable. And I was probably quite lucky to be in my sort of friends group. I had one of my second cousins. It turned out he was my second cousin from down the south end of the island. We kind of grew up completely separately on the island, and happened to both get up to about the same level. I remember being like almost I mean, I'm not a sort of very jealous person, but I remember he turned up after Christmas with a Pashley megahertz trials bike. I was on a Kona Fire Mountain at the time. I was running some Raceline Magiras on that. I kind of got up to that level, but he turned up with this Pashley, like a specific, that for anybody listening, that's like this cool Reynolds steel trials specific bike. Still to this day, I would say one of the coolest frames. It was in the sky blue, and I was just like, wow, it was. I got one. Not when my Kona snapped, I got one eventually. So
nice. Yeah, I remember we had one in the bike shop I worked in when I was younger, and that was
very
a real
cool.
dream bike.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's cool.
You mentioned the local policeman who wasn't a massive Danny MacAskill fan, as it turned out. Mm-hmm. He even got upset about you jumping over a stuffed teddy bear at some point.
That's right. Yeah, I suppose there wasn't much for the police to do in Skye, so I would kind of constantly have a few run-ins with him, out just doing wheelies on my bike, just playing at the gun shop. It's kind of hard. I mean, I can sympathise with him if he was getting complaints from anybody for me jumping on the flower beds. I can kind of see it. But it got quite extreme. One summer I kind of got my bike taken off me for I wasn't allowed to ride it for the summer holidays. So it was that was when I was 13. I think maybe it was about kind of when I got my Pashley.
And that was taken off you by the policeman, not by your parents.
No, it was by the policeman, and I don't know. It's just, I laugh about it now, and kind of laughed about it then. It just meant I got up to more mischief, probably.
That must have been heartbreaking though, for someone that was so wedded to riding. Or were you just like, well, I'll just go play outside?
Yeah, I think it was just like, I had plenty of other things to do.
Yeah,
but I was really into the riding at that time, and it just seemed kind of a bit, I don't know, it just seemed a bit extreme, really.
Yeah.
But
have you ever had any contact from that person sort of since everything?
No, not with that police officer, but I've been really lucky since then. Like, I moved from I moved around to different cities and villages over the years, and I think because I ride alone, I tend to, I don't know, like Aviemore, for instance, the police would just sort of leave me be.
Yeah.
I was never in big groups, so it wasn't really, I don't know, like I try not to ride right in front of folk. Yeah, I don't know, you'd have a certain respect. Same with Glasgow, Edinburgh. If the police were right there, I wouldn't just flaunt riding right in front of them. But we had some kind of mutual agreement, and I think because I wasn't grinding down things, or maybe in a bigger group, where there's just a bit more happening. I just kind of, it's almost like a sort of, I would describe myself almost like a sort of one of those kind of city foxes, kind of cruising around, stealthily kind of cruising around. If folk come and go on the spot, then I'll just go somewhere else, because you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the only real run-ins I've had with the police.
Yeah. How was school for you? Because I think you're dyslexic, is that right?
Yeah, I was I think diagnosed dyslexic in primary school.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to say what sometimes you think, am I dyslexic, or did I just not try hard enough with reading and writing? But yeah, it kind of affected. It just meant that I was just much more into the kind of slightly more practical things, PE, craft and design. Although I was quite into physics, actually.
Okay.
My maths isn't that good, but I just, something about it, I quite liked the learning of how things kind of worked.
Which I guess makes sense for what you've ended up doing, right?
Yeah.
You're using physics every day.
Yeah, I don't know, but because I wasn't very good at writing down my notes, there'd be no use looking back at that stuff. But I still have quite an interest in physics these days, but not that I have to do any of the theory. You just get to listen to the boffins talking about what they're up to. You're like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But
so like an academic career path was never the thing. Like, did you have a view as a kid as to where you might see yourself ending up? Like,
I think my real aspirations for what I was going to do after I left school was to go work on Bothy bikes in Aviemore, in Scotland. It's like a small sort of ski town village, and Bothy bikes was the shop you'd go into. I mean, I was going there since I was 8. It was the first time I ever saw a full suspension mountain bike in person. It had like Santa Cruz's Super 8s in the window. You know, it had the Kona Stinky Deluxes, the Stabs. It was like the coolest. It was the coolest shop. You know, it was like that one that had the trickiest cabinet and all the things that you'd be reading about in the magazines you'd get to see in real life. So I was like, and it happens that the sort of village centre or town centre there's got really good trials. So I thought to myself it would be quite a cool place to move to and try and work there. So yeah, when I left school, I ended up doing that.
Yeah, so you did a City and Guilds, I think, in bicycle maintenance.
Yeah, that's
is like
right.
a qualification, right?
Yeah, City and Guilds down in Norfolk somewhere. I can't remember. Spalding, and I can't remember there's like a sort of older couple. It's terrible. I can't remember their name right now. I need to look. I learned how to service Sturmey Archers and cup and cone bottom brackets.
Yeah,
and
the
stuff.
classics.
Yeah, it was like a bit more like touring focused. But the one thing that I did learn from that course was how to build wheels very well. Or it was certainly, I had a certain lacing technique that I still don't know if people quite use it that way. It's like you put in all your sort of inward parallel spokes first.
Yeah.
And then you put all your outward ones. Whereas I quite often see people building one side and then having to do a bit of flexing. But it seemed to me like a very efficient way. But really got into building wheels very well for myself. Of course, because I was using them probably harder than most. I kind of got pretty good at building good wheels, and I still really like. I mean, I don't have to do it so much these days because Santa Cruz really builds such good wheels in house. But it's something I love doing.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's a pretty handy skill to have as a trials rider. So yeah, how did you finally land that, like, the dream job then? Was that your first bike mechanic job, or did you start somewhere else?
No, I had to wait for a little bit. Luckily my parents were quite they were patient. I think I left school in like June 2002. I think I started working Bothy bikes maybe beginning of 2003.
Okay.
And it was class just as a mechanic. I was getting paid £100 a week, full-time work. Kind of they had me almost as an apprentice type thing for a while, and then I just loved it. I would go riding my bike every lunch break. I was living out at my aunt's, which was about 10 miles or so outside of town in a beautiful place called Glenfeshie. And life was good. I would ride my bike after work for like 2 or 3 hours, my trials bike, and then road bike home. And I was fit as a fiddle at that time.
I bet.
Yeah, it was good.
And there's that famous little spot with loads of rocks in Aviemore.
Yeah, the rocky car park.
Yeah, that got used quite a bit.
Yeah, and it was around that time. I mean, it was around that time we started. I bought a little video camera in 2005. Bought like a little Sony Handycam and got my pal Nash to point it at me to just film some of the manoeuvres I was doing around town. I was on an old titanium frame Global. It was like a British company that made it, and I just did the things that I was doing day to day around the village, and eventually that got put on the internet in like 2006, I think.
That was the Tarty bikes edit, was it? Was that the first one?
I wasn't going to do anything with the footage because it was kind of stuff I was just doing day to day. Hadn't really tried particularly hard, but my second cousin Gordon, he sort of forced me to bring the tapes to him, and he just whapped together a quick edit. And I think when that went online on YouTube back in 2006, I remember being told it had gone viral on MySpace. I didn't have a laptop, didn't have a MySpace, didn't have any of that stuff at that time, and I was just, what does that mean? It had 250,000 views, and I didn't really think anything of it, to be honest. So.
Interesting. So that just totally kind of passed you by then, really, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have, I think one of my housemates had a computer, so you could start, watching YouTube and, but most of the scene, do you want to wait for that? Or
You're all good.
There's a helicopter going overhead if you can hear it. But the scene, YouTube was still just a brand new thing at that time, and I mean, the trials world for me was a website called trialsforum.co.uk or .com, trialsforum. I can't remember exactly what the... but that was where... It was actually, I mean, of course you're nostalgic for those times, but it was, for me, some of the glory days of trials, personally anyway.
Uh-huh.
And it was kind of like the world scene was all on this kind of website, and people would, they would upload like 200 kilobit kind of little clips of their riding, side hopping something, or if some of the bigger 3-minute videos would be like 10 megabytes, which in Aviemore or back home on Sky, I had on Sky, it was like a 28 kilobyte connection. It's like, the dial-up. It was like you'd literally have to leave it for like 2 days or pretty much to download. It was great, yeah. But that was the way to kind of start getting more up-to-date videos.
Yeah, and having a bit of, I guess, reach into what was going on around the trials world, and having that inspiration. Edinburgh is a big part of your story, I guess. Mm-hmm. How do we get from Aviemore to Edinburgh? What brought you there? Just
that I'd been riding in Aviemore for a good few years and felt like I'd just rinsed the riding completely, and I fancied moving to a bigger city just to, I don't know, it was really for the riding. I moved to Edinburgh. It's not particularly like 10 out of 10 place. There's more sort of concrete kind of cities, but Edinburgh was cool. One of my friends from the bike shop in Bothy Bikes was studying down in Edinburgh as well, and he had a bit of an a bike shop called McDonald Cycles.
Uh-huh.
So I just went down there and started mechanicking there. So
nice.
It was class.
And while you're in Edinburgh, you meet someone who I think has been super pivotal in your life and your career, Dave Sowerby.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us just a little bit about Dave and how you met him.
So Dave Sowerby he's a real sort of BMX legend, has been making BMX videos since the early days of him. I mean, him and his brother were running what was almost like the coolest dirt jump scene in the world at the time. It was in Trinent in Scotland, and there were tiny little jumps in this field. Not tiny little, sorry Dave. There were some sort of jumps in this field, but that was really almost like this epicenter of riding at the time. And he grew up, like I'd kind of known him off him for years. Quite an intimidating character.
Okay.
But I don't know. I was just kind of my own person, just cutting around him on the sort of fringes of any of the scenes in Edinburgh, really. But it happened when I was moving to one flat. There was an opportunity to move into the flat that Dave had with a couple of friends, some other BMX friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a good time.
Yeah, for sure. And so you're living with Dave, you've had that like influence, I guess, from him, started to get to know him. He then gets injured and offers to film you. I'm guessing that's an offer too good to turn down at that point, right?
Yes, I mean, I had been filming with some other friends in the city before, mainly Chaz Nairn. Big shout out to Chaz if he's listened to this. I mean, he was really doing a great job of filming the scene for many years. But quite often we'd go out. We'd quite often go out and just sort of film a day's kind of riding. So you'd just be trying to bust out as many different tricks in the day. But when Dave offered to make a film, I don't know what it was that really. I think it's maybe just his influence when I was watching so much BMX content. I kind of started really learning about what it was to build a part for one of these DVDs, and I would kind of get much more into, why you would choose certain music for it, and I don't know, and maybe the impact that you could sort of get from these kind of things. So I was like, well, if Dave's going to be pointing a camera at me, let's try quite hard. And the first week or the first few days, we managed to get quite a lot on film. A lot of the things that I was doing day to day, I could just sort of go out and, so like 50% of the film stuff I was doing fairly regularly.
Yeah.
And then, I just started kind of setting my aspirations a bit higher. Things like, I wonder if I can flare off. I was trying to learn how to do flares in a quarter pipe. Couldn't really do them very well. But I was like, well, I know there's a tree in the meadows. I wonder if I could do something off that. Or saw the spiky fence in the meadows also on my way to work. And I was like, well, I wonder if I could get along there and stuff like that. So, yeah, it turned out it was well worth putting in the effort. But it was the first time I'd filming with Dave. It's the first time I experienced sort of disappointment.
Okay.
And kind of, I wouldn't say rejection, that's not the right word, but failure, I suppose, on a day. You put everything into it, try it hundreds of goes. And the spiky fence, for sure, I'd say that taught me, that one, working away on that one line taught me a lot of just kind of going through the motion, and also, like, I suppose it paid off so well. It kind of, it's like it's worth persevering at things like that.
Sure.
So,
That was the hook for that film, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It was the last thing we filmed as well. We'd filmed everything else. And Dave I think I tried it for 3 days. And then Dave, I'd kind of given up. And then Dave was like, kind of like, I think we should give it another go. And it worked out. So, yeah.
Good on him. Yeah. And Dave and that whole sort of BMX scene that you were involved in there, I think had a bigger influence beyond just the filming style into the riding as well, right? You sort of tried to remove correction hops and bitch cranks and like get a flow in that maybe we'd not seen before.
I mean, the correction hops, I would say removing correction hops comes from a film that total riding hero of mine, Ryan Leach, did, called Manifesto. Back in the maybe, was that about 2000? Can't remember exactly.
Somewhere
maybe it's a little bit newer than that. Yeah. But he basically did exactly that. His manifesto was to remove correction hops from trials, and that had a really big effect on me. I was like, "Oh, that makes just so much sense." It's like, because trials, if you watch the competition side, it can be not the smoothest, let's say. Yeah. It can be amazingly smooth. I mean, but that's not the aim of the game isn't to be amazingly smooth. It's to basically get through a section without putting your feet down. So trying to then, if you're taking it to film though, I just love the idea of trying to just do it with one hop there, as efficiently as possible. So, and then, yes, of course, from the BMX side, Dave kind of laid down a few ground rules, and I kind of had them kind of built in already, but I took them to heart a lot more and really tried to smoothen out my riding.
Yeah. So 6 months of filming for Inspired Bicycles. At the end of it, did you feel like you had something special?
I would say I was content with the riding that I'd done. There was a few things that got away that I should really go back and do if they're still there. It's amazing how many spots are gone now. But I'd say overall really happy. I mean, at that time, I don't think many folk had really tried as hard as we had for that particular film.
Yeah.
And that was the most important thing for me. I was like, wow, be cool to upload this to Trials Forum. And the main folk that I was kind of into watching it was just the scene.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is going to be fun to show folk and, my friends in the kind of riding scene. And that was my main excitement, really.
Yeah. So you had a little premiere for friends at your flat, a few beers, sat back with a bit of Family Guy or Mighty Boosh or something afterwards, and then woke up to a phone call from the BBC after it had got uploaded onto YouTube that night.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about what you remember from that, like, first few days.
Just remember it being quite surreal. I remember, as you say, we watched the film, with my friends that had helped make it in the flat, and it was, I would say, slightly underwhelming. One of my friends, Ian Withers, he's played a big part in my riding kind of career with shows. He brought a carry-out down when we had a couple of beers, as you say. We watched it maybe twice in a row. We were like, oh, it's good, nice, it's done. And then, it was really surprising to kind of see the reaction it started getting out from the actual world, not just the sort of Trials Forum. I mean, the Trials Forum kind of kicked it off, actually. I remember the thread, which is still I actually went through it maybe a little bit narcissistically, but it was more reliving that time. I actually went and searched it the other day just to kind of go through. I just remember, but yeah, it's that particular thread was very popular. I remember having sort of 14,000 page views or something, which was really high for this site. But that was really, it was that scene that kicked the ball rolling.
Okay.
And then it jumped out into the wider, onto your pink bikes, Vital. And then, just started kind of kicking around Facebook and all that kind of stuff. And as you say, started getting mainstream media attention from firstly in Scotland and then UK, and then, getting folk that were out in New Zealand in the bakery or something like that, New Zealand, sort of sending me messages saying, oh yeah, we heard folk at randoms in the queue talking about this video. So it was funny. And that was kind of the early days of viral content.
Stephen Fry shared it on Twitter. Lance Armstrong,
it was funny. It was funny. It was nice. I mean, I look back on it with great nostalgia. I was just there was a bit more of an innocence, I think, to the internet in some ways. We were all just sort of, I don't know. It was fun to be part of. I remember I used to get these accolades on YouTube, and it would be like most viewed sports video in UK and it was the most viewed sports video globally for years on this accolade.
Wow.
Yeah, like even more than like these sort of big sporting moments. I mean, of course, that was just on YouTube.
Yeah, but that's cool.
But I remember just thinking it was hilarious that it was trials. I mean, it's the most niche.
Yeah.
One of the most niche kind of sides of bikes, really.
Do you think it's the first example of trials breaking out beyond the bike community?
No. I think for sure Hans Ray. I mean, you need to hear some of Hans' stories, and I mean, many will know them. But I mean, Hans has been and done. He's really he took trials to the mainstream, especially in the States.
But without YouTube, I guess he was like pre that YouTube era.
I mean, it was more like TV time.
Yeah.
He appeared in all sorts of. He really is the original sort of mainstream trials rider, I think.
Yeah.
Well, certainly in my eyes, but I mean, maybe there's others as well. But he understood how to work the sort of system a bit. Whether it was him side hopping on top of the car and on the 408. What's the big?
The main highway.
The big freeway in California. Can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, not
401
sure.
Maybe. But anyway, he understood. He wasn't just focused on pleasing the scene. He's done many things like riding the waterfall in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Riding up at the Redeemer, making these viral images.
He knew how to translate.
Yes, exactly.
Sure.
So, but I was very lucky that the internet came along for me.
Yeah.
Just the right time. So.
Yeah, amazing. And at that time, you had a touring trial show called The Clan, I think.
Yep.
So you basically just kind of parked all this attention and carried on with all the tours that you had booked over that summer and sort of ignored it a little bit.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I found it all a bit, to be honest, I found it all a bit over the top. That was the main thing. It was like, oh, this is cool. But at the end of the day, it was just a trials video, and all I'm doing is, I was like pleased that people were enjoying it. But Dave from Inspired Bicycles, he set up a little sort of email kind of website thing, and I just let that inbox fill up with all the requests from all the different brands. And as you said, I was doing shows with the Clan, the Scottish Cycle Stunt Team. We're still going today. I had plenty of shows already booked. I'd managed to leave sort of work 2008, the whole of summer, and then 2009 I was looking to be able to basically do this full time. And that was just pre Inspired Bicycles coming in and completely changing things for me altogether. So and I think that kind of core side, I mean, Dave Sowerby's influence was, went further than just the riding. It was definitely I don't know, kind of taught me some, I don't know, just sort of, you don't want to be too core, but there's certain things you just, I've always had some rule, but basically if my rules have been, if I was still me working in the bike shop and I saw somebody else, you know, living this sort of career, having the opportunities that I'm if I saw somebody else as a professional rider, it's like, would I look at their stuff and think, was that like credible and cool? And I've tried to kind of maintain that and have that in the back of my mind. Not to kind of just get involved in every sort of cheesy thing that I could possibly do, and especially over sort of money. So you just try and like make sure you're just doing. I mean, I tried the line at times. There's definitely lines that are tried, and sometimes you can be too core, or you can shun. You know, of course, the obvious ones are like sponsorships and things like that. You can be, but you just have to weigh it up and make the right decisions.
Yeah,
and there's not really any right or wrong ones. At the end of the day, they will work out. But that's how I've tried to still sort of live by those rules today.
Yeah. Are there any regrets of things that you've missed out on as a result of like holding that strong kind of integrity?
No, I can't say there is. No, not that I know of.
Okay.
I've probably forgotten. You know, there's probably many an email I've not opened or a message on something. I'm not. Yeah. I can't say I'm very on top of my. You know, I still kind of live a little bit like, I'm still very much like the rider in the bike shop, if I'm honest. Not really particularly caring enough about things. I just try and have a good time with my friends and ride my bike.
It's good, and it's shown in like you've had kind of long-lasting, stable relationships with a lot of the brands that you do work with. So you've obviously chosen well. Yeah, I think that's an important one for me. You know, you don't want to sort of jump on a paycheck and get 2 years or whatever. You know, it's important. You know, the people that you're working with there at the brands are important, and as you say, you know, working together for a long time is cool. Yeah. And as a trials rider, brakes are super important to you. And certainly in my era, like the brake that stands out in trials was that fluoro yellow Magura brake. Oh yeah. Like was that a no-brainer? Did Magura come to you? Did you go to them? Like, how did that come about? Magura came to me, and I mean Magura have been like the sort of pinnacle brakes to have on your bike as a trials rider for as long as I can remember. I mean, I think we'll be seeing, you know, Martyn Ashton's red Cannondale. That's the one that sticks out for me. Yeah, the horseshoe booster. Yeah. You know, the race line yellow brakes, or you know, seeing them on the downhill. Was watching like Kamikaze sort of days, the Gustav. Yeah. Just they were always just so cool. So Magura approached me. Can't even remember now exactly. It must have been like 2015, and they're wanting to bring the race line back, or that's something I asked as well. I was like, well, if I can get like a signature brake. I actually had a signature set of MT7s that were the Danny MacAskill edition. That was like the coolest thing ever. It really was, actually. I mean, it's a real highlight for me throughout the year. So yeah, and I'm still loving their stuff today. Yeah, and they've recently brought out an e-bike specific version, or like a rekindling of that Gustav brake. Yeah, I know e-bikes are close to your heart, and you took them playing on the slabs, eh? Yeah, they're absolute beasts of brakes. I mean, they're big. I mean, they're really designed for big alpine descents to handle the heat, and they've got a lot of, you know, they're high performance. I mean, they're definitely. They're maybe not sort of downhill specific style. I would say they're more focused on heavy load, like long dragging on down the big Alps. Yeah. But yeah, I love them. They're really they feel amazing. New lever system feels good as well. So nice. A couple of some big chunky rotors as well. I mean, it's what's needed. The bikes are getting bigger. And you need to, I mean, I would say, well, for me on my e-bike, the most important thing, or the thing that makes the bike, I would say, feel not in control, I don't know.
It's I basically just need really powerful brakes.
Yeah.
That would be the one thing that you probably notice the biggest difference between getting on the mountain bike and the e-bike is just your braking zones are a little bit different. But running big brakes means that you kind of got the bike in control.
Nice. And there's a lot of different lever options with Magiro. Do you run the same lever across all your bikes? Do you change between what you're doing?
On my MT7s, I tend to run the HC3 lever.
Yep. The reason it's a super adjustable one, right? Yeah.
It's got a cool part in it where you can adjust the fulcrum of the lever inboard. I basically run my brakes in the most powerful position. And I tend to run like standard ones, but I also quite like, Magiro offer to the riders, you can custom make levers. So I've got these little 3D printed titanium ends that I run that are slightly flatter.
Nice.
And I like those for the trial side of things because it's like it's not something you can really do in regular riding, but I pull my brakes so hard that when I do trials on the bikes, I pull the brakes so hard that the knuckle on my middle finger gets crushed.
Okay.
And I got the thinner, flatter blades made up so that there's a little bit more clearance there.
Yeah.
But they're the best. They are the best. I cannot. My MT7s are just on the trials bike or the e-bike are just an absolute ticket. And the new Gustav M's are a nice string to that bow. So
nice. Yeah. And you're, I think it's fair to say, quite a fan of e-bikes.
Yeah, don't even get me started. If you thought I was into trials, then I suppose for me the trials bike was this. It meant that I could live in a city comfortably. Without it, I would struggle, I think. But it meant I'd leave my doorstep, and it's like being in the middle of Morzine or whatever. I could literally just find something to play on immediately, and a bit like going out for like a jog. It would be a bit more like going out for a jog.
Mm-hmm. You're straight into it.
Yeah, but it would just be kind of like jogging around the city, jumping on things. It's essentially what my trials bike feels to me. It's a bit. I love the sort of creative aspect, trying something until you get it done. And then kind of as is 2020, kind of started living in the sticks more, and it happened to coincide exactly with Santa launching the Heckler, which that's their e-bike, and I was kind of chasing them a bit, trying to get them on the e-bike program because they were a wee bit reluctant. Let's say the Californians were a wee bit reluctant to kind of get involved. They weren't. It's like the trends do tend to go from like Europe, or some of them do go through Europe. I think the continent was early adopters into e-bikes for sure.
For sure, yeah.
And then UK had the same kind of thing where like, oh, we don't need those. And when you actually try it properly, you're like, oh, it's actually very good. And it's to say, I got onto the Heckler in 2020, and it's kind of almost turned like the mountain. Like I was always into mountain bikes, but the way it kind of opened up the way I can look at the terrain around me, it's such a big step up on the mountain bike. It's just hard to even kind of convey how much it changed my world.
Yeah,
you can look. We've got kind of very open access laws here in Scotland, and it means that I can look at all these mountains, and they're actually like all rideable. I'm like, there's a lot of ones I would not be prepared to hike a bike up there because the juice would not be worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
Whereas like you can on the Heckler, you stick another battery in the back, and you can go into a couple of Monroes and just out exploring all this new terrain that it's kind of like nobody else is really going up or near. So just don't even get me started on how good it is.
It's pretty much an everyday obsession for you, right?
Yeah, it's all I think about, or just when there's so much more adrenaline involved. It's really focused on the down. For me, it's the downhill's what I'm, of course, most passionate about. But I do love a techie climb to get there. But there's just a lot more daily adrenaline from it. I really can't imagine any sport in the UK that can be done in all year round, any condition, and you can ride as hard as you can the e-bike and as many places.
Yeah.
It's a really, I mean, it's, I was thinking hard about it the other day. I was like, what else could you can, when you descend, I like to give it 100% or try and give it 100% or up to that line just on the limit where you're going to crash. I think that's where most of us.
It's where we enjoy being, I think.
That's where, yeah. And what, you're getting 10 runs, 10 2-minute runs or whatever every time you go ride, and that's just one battery. You got 2. You get 20. You can have as much as you can possibly deal with, as much as you're comfortable risking, basically, in the day. I don't know what's not to love. And
you've made a few mods as well, right? You've got one of these adjustable seat angle devices.
For the big hills, I've got a switch grade seat mover. I don't know what you call it, but
it tilts the seat angle to a few different spots.
That thing's pretty kick-ass. Really like it.
Why? What's that helping with?
It just means that you can. It's amazing how much you can relax your arms. I'd say the biggest upgrade I've got on the bike, and I preach to everybody that'll listen to me about this. Biggest thing that you can do on any e-bike is running a smaller chainring.
Okay.
So you maybe need to check it doesn't mess with any of your manufacturing kind of, I don't know anything about whether or not you have to have your chainring set up for stuff, but I just basically stick on a 30-tooth chainring up front, like Bergtech make a nice one.
Yeah.
And the reason for this is that, well, bikes over here in the UK were limited to 50 mile an hour, which is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But the last portion of the cassette, well, you shouldn't be using it because you shouldn't be running gears that, you know what I mean? You could maybe crank away, but trying to crank in those gears, you're not really gaining much.
No.
You basically should try and ride steeper terrain. That's my ideal is basically riding steep stuff. But but by putting a 30-tooth chainring on, it just means that the bike is, I run 30, 52 tooth on the back, and the bike is kind of then getting to a place where if you've got perfect grip on grass or something, it's hard to climb much steeper.
Okay. And
then you run your seat. It means you can run also your seat low. Like I run my seat right down when I'm climbing in the heather and stuff like that, and it just means that you can just get more places without pushing.
Boost up anything pretty much, I guess.
I mean, I would even go lower if I could. I would even try to get down to a 28. So if anybody wants to make a stainless steel 28 tooth, that's either, as goes on a Shimano, I would take that. But I can't. I mean, honestly, they're the best things ever. And I'm pretty addicted to this sort of daily adrenaline dopamine hit. I was never into that really on the trials bike.
Yeah.
Say the only time you'd get that kind of spike of adrenaline would be when you'd snap your chain or something like that. So whereas I can go and share in this with all my good pals up here as well. So it's changed my life. Changed where I'd like to live, and completely changes the way I look at the world.
Yeah. So that's awesome, mate. I'm glad you're enjoying them. They're fun things for sure. Let's spin it back to trials. I mean, you've had this huge success with Inspired Bicycles. It's blown up. You've taken on management with Tarek at RAS Solutions. You've got Red Bull backing you now. And I guess it's time to use the kind of the music term to do that difficult second album, right? Did you feel the pressure to raise the bar?
Yes. I mean, for some reason I knew in the back of my mind that I shouldn't try and, I tried really, the stars completely aligned on Inspired Bicycles. I've been living in that city in Edinburgh for 4 years, and it was the perfect music choice. It was just everything about that. It was going to be very hard to beat, and I knew that I shouldn't try to one up that video. That was, for some reason, it wasn't like Dave was telling me that. I just sort of knew it deep down that I wasn't going to be able to, well, exactly one up that with another street video.
Yeah.
Very difficult. So it was actually kind of Red Bull's, kind of between mine and Red Bull's, where they had this idea with taking a camper van. I mean, I'd already maybe thought about not riding in the street, but Red Bull UK had this idea of me getting a camper van and cutting around Scotland. And then so I came up with the idea of going back from Edinburgh back to Skye. And then the sort of visual of it was maybe trying to find concrete that was in the wilderness. So it was like, your kind of hydro dams, the old military defences, and that kind of thing. I felt like that was, and I set my aspirations insanely high. Like I had the maddest stuff planned. But in between Inspired Bicycles and filming the way back home, I unfortunately broke my collarbone 3 times in a row.
Yeah, one of them following G on a downer bike,
yes.
was it?
Yeah, one of them was at the Oakley headquarters in California, riding their pump track. That was the first one. Second one, I will not disclose that one. And then the third one, was back on the bike in California, and I crashed practicing to do a downhill race with G in Fontana. Inevitable, I would say. But that gave me a lot of time while I was injured. I used to borrow my friend's Ian Withers' little Fiesta automatic, and I would cut around with my sling, just scouting all over Scotland, trying to find some of these cool spots to film. And Dave very kindly got involved again. And we ended up really putting a lot of time. As I say, I set my aspirations very high, and we didn't have an exact plan. The plan was to just basically try to ride all the spots I'd found, and try really hard. But even there's one, I had plans to try to jump off the Skye Bridge into the sea. I had this dream shot of me right along the railing, sort of midways between the song. I wanted to make a 2-song part.
Yeah.
And I was going to ride along this railing, and we had budget. There was really low budget, but I think Red Bull had said there was budget for like a helicopter for one thing. So I had this dream of, this shot that was going to zoom out as I was riding along this rail, and it would expose this. Well, I had my athlete manager hanging over the railing with a bit of fishing line in my weight, and trying to see when it was going to hit the water at high tide, and it was 41 meters. We measured it when I measured it out, and I was planning to tire tap off the bridge and then land in the sea. And I was pretty confident. I'd kind of really mentally geared up to try this. And I've since seen young lads on the internet recently doing the same drop, and I kind of feel slightly sort of not valid. No, what's the right word? Not validated. My aspirations weren't mental,
right?
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I never did in the end. I also planned to go up on the Inaccessible Pinnacle. We've got a wee picture of it up there in the wall, for that as well. But I never did.
What stopped you doing the bridge drop?
It was time. Basically, there was lots of other things that I really wanted to get done, and it was just time kept on slipping.
Yeah.
And I was really trying. We actually drove ourselves pretty insane. I probably drove Dave quite insane with it. I also had quite a bad back at the time. I hadn't realised, but I had a torn disc in my back filming that. But I set my aspirations. What do you say? Aim for the stars, reach the moon.
Yeah.
But when I'd finished the way back home filming, it was quite a tough process. I had to push Red Bull quite hard to get the edit the way we wanted. I was very, very, very adamant that Dave Sowerby was to have all the final say on the edit. And that got a bit heated at some stage. Early days. It was early days of working together.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was actually quite disappointed with the film when it came out.
I was going to ask how that felt, right? The first one you put out there with no expectation, no weight on your shoulders, and it went, better than anyone could hope. Putting the second one out there, there's an expectation, right? People are like, oh, it's another Danny film. It needs to be this. Like, how did it feel putting that out compared to Inspired?
I think I kind of started getting into... I a little bit started getting into the way of not caring, actually. I'd maybe read the Trials Forum comments, maybe see what the mountain bike world thought, and then just being kind of like, oh, there you go. And then kind of go about my daily riding, really. I kind of had that attitude, still kind of do to this day. Try not to really care as long as we were happy with it. Annoyingly, at that time, we had really it was pretty heavy psychologically, that film. I don't know why. We just put so much time into it. We were just too into it.
And you lived in that camper van where you're filming, like 17,000 miles worth of travel around Scotland.
Yeah, it was the camper van was the best thing ever. I mean, that was my first car, so I'd never owned a car of my own before that, so to have this camper van afterwards, I didn't give it back to Red Bull for another year. It was pretty much like a rolling write-off by the time I'd finished with it. I had like 2 12-inch subs up in the top. I used to pretty much spoon with them at night up in the top bunk. Run plenty of parties in there, and It was pretty trash. The toilet was used as a shed, pretty much. It was funny. But yeah, but it was cool because that really, I mean, it was successful. You know, it was like Red Bull's most successful project, I think, on their, or one of them for a while on their YouTube channel. And that kind of set the bar and set the way I would work with Red Bull for, well, really to this day. Yeah, and it was nice not to be a one-trick pony.
Yes.
And that kind of, and then we just, over the next years, there was lots of injury. It was like we'd quite often go from injury to jumping on the bike, doing a project, to more injuries. And there were a lot of silly things. It wasn't like I was pushing, it would just be sort of silly stuff you'd constantly pick up. Or my back was definitely a running theme throughout when I kind of got that into in like 2012. But still sat here on the sofa right now. It's not the most comfortable. Not the most comfortable. But I don't do any training or don't do any. I know I had the Red Bull physio up here the other day, and he's like, "Yeah, your left leg's got about a third of the strength of your right, so there might be something to start with there." So I'll start getting on the.
Yeah, plenty of time to get in the gym, mate.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'll be 40 end of next year, and I'm saving the training because if I train really hard now, then I'll set the bar too high for myself.
Exactly.
So I'm sort of saving it so that I can maintain this level. You don't want to put up. I don't want to be trying too hard.
I know where you're at, mate. So over the years, then you've done a lot of videos. Do you feel like you've worked out a bit of a formula?
Yeah, I think there is definitely a formula to making online. Well, there is definitely a formula to making these videos. I think I had quite a clear idea, maybe not from way back home, maybe not from Inspired Bicycles exactly, but I did, learn that riding along a spiky fence, that was the kind of things that were relating to the audience outside of the bicycle world, flaring off a tree, or one of the things that stood out from Inspired Bicycles that I was a bit gutted about, actually, was having the members of public looking over the railing at the we were specifically trying to jump up as quickly as possible, so there's no crowds. I had to jump up there and just go, so there's no tourists taking photos and whatnot. But kind of realised that there was a way of packaging the riding or thinking about where I was going to put my energy, that not only could I stoke out the riding scene, which is the most important, but I could also make things that could maybe relate to the sort of, a member of public that's never seen trials before.
Yeah.
And I really tried to, over the years, I've definitely played on that and picked the low-hanging fruit, as it were.
Yeah.
But it's something I enjoy thinking about.
Yeah, and music plays a big role in the films, but I think also in the filming and in your riding in general, right? Like the mood of a track can change how you approach things, how you see obstacles, the energy you take into moves.
Yeah, I mean, music's played a huge part in the reason I'm able to keep riding every day. Whether it was back in Dunvegan, I started using my mum's Walkman, recorded Faithless, is it Sunday? 8 p.m. or Saturday? I think it's Sunday, 8 p.m.
One of the two, yeah.
An amazing masterpiece of an album that I realise now. And I would just go out and it would just keep me motivated to go out and ride in the rain. and to go to the same spot that I'd ridden, for 1,000 days beforehand. And it just sort of changes the way I don't know, it just means that you just didn't get bored. You kind of just changed the way you felt in the spot. And I've really used music as a big part of my motivation to go riding every day. And also it's a huge part of, I spend a lot of time looking for the tracks, or will sometimes even base the video. I've got a few music tracks that I'm going to try to do in the next couple of years, where I'm fed up of looking for the perfect track for a location.
Okay.
Whereas I'm going to I'll pick the music first.
Interesting. So you'll let that lead the decisions that come after.
And that might be going to where the artist is from.
Yeah.
Or it just, it gives you some kind of framework to kind of work around. But I've got some tunes that I'm like, I've been meaning to do this for so long. It'll be entertaining for everybody, including me.
That's cool.
So
you must have a wide range of musical taste as well, because there's quite a different feel to a lot of the videos, right?
Yeah, you kind of depending on the location, the style, you just sort of pick the music to suit. It's not the music I pick in the videos is not necessarily the kind of stuff I'm listening to every day, but I do pick them for their merit, for being a standalone. You get edit tracks and you get ones that don't. And often if you look on actual traditional music libraries, I mean, they're a lot better now, but it's a difficult balance trying to find the ideal thing is trying to find an artist that's small enough that you can afford, but it's like the perfect track for the films you're making. Because working with these big brands, though there is definitely budgets there. I mean, sometimes the budgets I find it hard. It's weird spending money on a riding clip. Sometimes it feels weird to me.
Okay.
It affects me a little bit sometimes, but there's definitely budgets there. But the expectations of the artists when you're coming from like some of these big brands, they're not quite aligning.
Really? Like what sort of money would a big artist look to charge? Or does it vary quite a lot?
It can vary a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes you're getting, on not so big bands. So say, our expectations for budget for something, so say it's like $5,000 both sides from the publisher. That's maybe what we have.
Yeah.
Which is like a decent sized music budget.
Yeah.
You can get up to a certain size, but then the artists will come back with maybe like 80 to 100 grand.
No way.
Yeah. So they're just like, and it's fair enough. I mean, we're all out there, but it's hard. It can be difficult. But the music's it's something I'm so passionate about, and really understand that if you get the right tune, people will come back to it. It's not because of the writing necessarily. It plays, I would say, like 50% of your enjoyment really is sort of made up by the music, I would say. Yeah,
National Express and We Day Out is the one that pops up in my head. That just, there's something about the way that all fits.
Yeah, it was a good one. That was it's one that I'm really happy with. It's just kind of got that jolly British countryside vibe.
Yeah.
And just, I quite like I don't know what you saw, he's out of the hills, that's kind of had the green rolling hills that were in it. It just fitted so well. And I had so much fun. We had so much fun making that with Stu.
That's hilarious. Yeah, there's some good behind the scenes of that. If people haven't checked that out on YouTube, it's well worth a watch. And would you say making videos and the art of making videos has changed a little bit over the years, especially with the influence of the YouTube algorithm? So I had a look at Inspired Bicycles. It's 35 seconds before the first trick. Postcard from San Francisco, it's about 4 seconds till the first trick.
Don't get me started on the blooming algorithms.
Yeah, I'm not a fan, but it definitely...
Well, it depends on the brands you're working with. It depends. And there's certain types. I mean, there's definitely pressure from, you get your data analysts that are working in the media, the social teams in the brands, and they have a bigger say these days. And it definitely gets in the way of the art,
the creative. Yeah,
because I think, I don't know, playing to the algorithm, playing to the audience. I mean, there's a certain playing to the audience, I mean, we understand it,
Yeah,
but when you're needing to try to sort of focus on folks' attention spans, like a modern, if you look at some of these modern films, I can't stand, like, I don't know, Transformers is maybe up there. Maybe sorry if people like that stuff, but it's just like, playing at your kind of social media brain, just constant, it's too much. Whereas I kind of like, I mean, for me, songs, I'm really into music, and I think songs, nothing should be shorter than 5 minutes. That's my view.
Mm-hmm.
If it's good, then play it out.
Yeah.
I like a bit of an intro and the ups and the downs.
Build,
That's a bit of a sort of generalization, but I mean, my favorite tracks are like the big 10-minute epic dance tracks from the 90s but yeah, it's a difficult one, the algorithms. And I'd say, I mean, it's hard to admit, but I've slightly more, it's maybe just because you're getting a wee bit older, but slightly disheartened with the internet in general. I feel the new and exciting part of it for me personally is kind of been lost a wee bit.
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know if the audience in here is a wee bit older. They can maybe relate.
Yeah.
I'd imagine they are.
Yeah.
Probably similar ages. And, it went from this sort of new exciting thing, you had your sort of Facebooks and whatnot, and you could, but I'd say the worst part about it is the open, the way the platforms are constantly trying to feed you content from outside. It's good for people trying to get into it, but it has a slightly more hollow vibe than if you're maybe finding a few folk that you're specifically following. I don't know, I feel like it would be something I would rather go and look for. I'd rather go on to search to maybe go and look for some new stuff.
Yeah. And
people have that choice rather than it being sort of forced upon you because there's pressure. A race to the bottom between TikTok and Instagram, basically. Yeah,
it feels like it used to be sort of community driven, community supporting.
Yes.
And now it's algorithmically driven.
Yeah.
And that
I mean,
jars.
there was always, there was definitely always these algorithms, but the modern ones, I just think, I can't help but feel it's not good for us. And I personally have taken steps to try to mitigate my time on the platforms, because of
fair play. Yeah, it's changed a lot, right? You started in an era where MySpace was kind of just beginning, and now we've got Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all this stuff.
You kind of wonder what does the next stuff look like? I think it was when you just sort of following your friends, and you, as you say, you could if you followed folk, you'd get their content. I think that's grand. Yeah. But again, just getting constantly bombarded with other people's stuff, like I don't want to see that many crashes out there. Do you not, I feel it's not natural for you to see that many. It's like watching You Been Framed. It's like you go or like TV, it's like TV channel skipping. You like sit in front of your TV and just like skip every 10 seconds. I mean, of course that'd be mental. To your 90s brain, you'd be like, what are you doing? Another channel. Oh. Anyway, don't get me started on it.
Let's talk about crashing and injury, because I do want to touch on that. I mean, you've definitely had your fair share of injuries over your riding career so far, and you seem to have, give or take, bounced back from most of it. Unfortunately, one of your friends and kind of biggest inspirations, Martyn Ashton, had a crash which left him in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. First off, how did you find out about that? Did you hear pretty quickly from that?
Was. I'm trying to think when it was. It wasn't around the time of Imaginate. No, it's terrible that I can't exactly put the exact year on when I found out. Was it 2015?
So it's got to be in the region of 10 years-ish, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it was extremely hard-hitting. I mean, another friend of mine had also had a crash, Michael Bothy.
Of course,
and that was one that's standing out, and that was during Imaginate. I was filming that. And then Martyn, 2015, I'm pretty sure, and that was, really sort of devastating news. I would say it's probably some of the hardest news I've ever had, actually. It it's not. It's just, I don't know, what do you really say about it? It's life-changing injuries are. I mean, of course they happen.
Does it make you reevaluate your relationship with risk?
No, I don't think so. Because, I mean, it's hard to say, but we take far greater risk. I mean, I don't know what the statistics are necessarily, but we all go out in these open roads every day. That's the way I kind of evaluate my own kind of risk a little bit. And I do quite a lot of things to mitigate the risks. Like I do try to use mats to learn certain tricks, more than some scenes will, for sure. To the point where it's maybe not the most core thing to do.
Some scenes would frown upon that almost.
Yeah,
right?
No, definitely. It's like that. That's not the rule in the sort of the scene rules. But for me making these films, I would not be able to make them and be standing, sat here today without that sort of preparation.
Yeah. I was interested as well hearing that, like, if you've got a big drop to one side, you'll naturally take your balance the other way slightly, so that if you do lose balance, you'll go on the lower side.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if you're doing high stuff, you're not up there thinking that, you're not up there with like high feeling, you're not there buzzing with adrenaline thinking this is dangerous. You're actually up there like, this is chill. I've got the safety of one side. That's kind of the way I operate with the high risk stuff. But as I say, we all go out in open roads every day, and if you really realize that is the most dangerous thing, I mean, like a bus that goes past you, it may as well be a black hole. It may as well be the most mental thing ever. It may as well be like a mine, or I laugh about how extreme it is, whereas the bike is a lot less. And of course, we've all got like, there's always the potential of having like life-changing injuries, especially spinal ones, where I've had many friends that have been affected by that. But I don't know. It's suppose it's hard to really sort of evaluate what you're up to, when it happened to other friends. I suppose it's not made me really change what I'd get up to day to day. If anything, I probably take more risk riding my e-bike every day than I ever have on my trials bike.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you say you're like pushing yourself to 99.9% every run, like
but then I'm like, you find your control limit. I don't spend my time crashing. I'm not out there crashing my brains out. I think it's important. If you're crashing literally every week, every time you go riding, you maybe need to start evaluating yourself a bit. Like I might sort of go off track, or I'll have to pull off because I made a mistake. But I'm not ragdolling down the, there's only so much of that you can get away with.
Yeah, the junior mentality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they all have to go through that.
Yeah, for sure. I think Martyn was in touch, though, fairly quickly after that accident, because he was halfway through the sequel to Road Bike Party, which had been very, very successful, but hadn't managed to finish it. So rang up you and Mr. Ackrig to see if you'd be willing to get involved. And he had some stipulations around lycra, shaved legs and fake tan ready for you.
That's right. I mean, as soon as Martyn was hurt, you're kind of like, well, is there anything you can possibly do to help? Desperate, really keen to go down to visit down in, I don't know if it was Oswestry or somewhere down in Wales direction. Mm-hmm. But Martyn asked if we'd come down. And when we were down there, he basically asked if we would help finish off Road Bike Party 2, myself and Chris Ackrig, with Robin Kitchen filming. And it was, of course, that was like a no-brainer. You're just like, yes, of course, I'll do absolutely anything for you right now. And it was impressive seeing his mentality. Sort of, being where he was. I mean, I think, his words would be, he was just pleased. It was a bad situation, but he's pleased it could have been worse. Yeah. That's the way he was kind of visualizing at the time.
Such a positive guy, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And for us to be able to kind of go and help in some way, or give him, to be able to sort of work on a project, while he was laid up on his back,
Even if it involves lycra and shaved leg mates, that shows some serious respect.
Yeah, I did an absolutely brutal job of shaving my leg. I'd never done it before, and I was like, "What do you do?" Just got some shaving foam and just went at it with a regular razor, and oh my god, the shaving rash was insane. I remember the maddest thing, and I would still say it's probably the kind of gnarliest, I don't like using that word, but thing I've ever done on a bike was doing a loop-the-loop in Manchester on the road bike. And I remember being at the start of the run-up for it, and normally I can be a little bit of a wimp when it comes to doing things like that, where I'll take lots of run-ups, and I'll be like trying to flick the switch in your brain. You're like, right, but I had done a lot. I'd just come off Imaginate. So no, it would have been 2000. Must have been like 2013. It's terrible that I can't pinpoint this exactly, because I had been doing lots of loop-the-loops in Imaginate. I remember just being at the start of this, thinking about Martyn, and just being like, right, I'm just going to just get on with this. But also that my thighs were just screaming with this shaving rash. That was all I could think about. I was like, right, we're going to get on with this, but it was very distracting. But yeah, I kind of got on with it. First time I got around the loop actually on that, and I was so surprised to have made it. I did not know what was going to happen on the road bike. There was no mats, there was nothing. It was very raw. November kind of time, and I was so surprised to make it round. I put my feet down at the bottom and ruined the shot.
Oh, no way.
So then I went to do it again, and I carved too much into the full pipe, and the tire rolled off the bead and jammed in the forks upside down, and it put me over the bars, and I landed my head at the bottom. Luckily I caught the transition, and then put another front wheel on, and with just the third time went round the charm. So I've never gone to a filming day and been like that. I was so visual, I'd visualized the success of it so much, and who I was doing it for and all that. I was just like, I wish I could turn up to a ride and shoot every day like that. But
amazing.
Yeah.
And learning to ride on drops as well must have been a bit freaky.
Just everything about it was disgusting. and knowing that Martyn and Chris had both been riding that bike, I was doing other things on that bike, and I was just like, this, you watch the Tour de France and these bikes just disintegrate, on landing.
Yeah. And
I had seen exactly what the guys had been doing on it before I got a shot. And I was thinking, this thing is dangerous. Dangerous. But it was cool, and it was nice to be able to do that for Martyn.
Yeah, and you were also there the day that Martyn got back on a mountain bike, I think at Antistiniog.
Yes.
And that is the only mountain bike video that's ever made me cry with joy.
Yeah, no.
That must have been amazing.
That was an amazing experience, getting to be there for Martyn, and he's just so resilient, sort of mentally and sort of physically with it. It was I felt quite a lot of responsibility that day, because it was just a regular sort of downhill bike with a sit seat put on. There was no way of stopping without falling over. And he's also mad. That's the thing. He's absolutely mad. He's just not scared. So he's doing jumps, but we're really trying to make sure that you could sort of get there to catch him when he was stopping. But I'm in a really top day of my life ever that day. So
yeah, very special. Yeah. And there was a great crew of you involved in that video, and it kind of struck me actually when researching this episode that you've always surrounded yourself with really good groups of people. Mm-hmm. Has that been a conscious decision or effort from your part, or has that just fallen into place?
Luck's played a big part in the sort of my riding crew around me. A lot of the filmers I've ended up kind of working with over the years, I've all met through riding. You got like Stu Thompson, Dave Sowerby, Robbie Mead, Paul McDonald. There's so many. I mean, we've got but I think it makes a big difference if you're working with pals on projects. Certainly when it comes to bike projects, I think yeah, it just means that you're all invested in making the best thing you can. Yeah, and just happen to just be lucky with all the different folk that I'm working with.
Yeah, and I guess having people on set that understand you must really help when you're trying to get into a headspace, or you're 400 efforts deep into sliding along a Vaseline log. Like, having people that get that and get you and know what you need must be really important.
Yes, 100%. It does make a big difference. You know, if you're working with a new crew, you'd maybe get a bit embarrassed if you're throwing the toys at the pram. I try not to throw toys at the pram, but that's what the boys call it, you know. And it is, I don't know, it's pretty natural, I think. I'm not sort of sitting with a sports psychologist trying to manage it. You're just trying to, you know, you're often trying to learn something new on location. I'm often trying to do sort of new kind of things. So it's not like you've got the muscle memory of like your 400 goes over the last wee while. You're just like, right. And it's the conditions probably aren't quite right. You're having to just about wait for the in-between showers or the light. And that's where your friends are there. You know, you've been through the same process many times before. And yeah, I owe my friends a lot for putting up with me. So yeah.
I'm sure it's fun though. It must be fun on a shoot.
I think so. I mean, it is definitely, but it can definitely tread the line between being not fun. You know, when your pal's up there losing his mind, trying to go. You know, and it's so frustrating as well, because I often feel, although I do, you know, maybe get to see on some, you know, Instagram what it looks like to have actually no fear, and maybe people are like a little bit too far in, you know, fearless kind of direction. But
Yeah.
I often wish, like I was saying with that the loop, where I could just go in, and I don't want to take it as a given that I'm going to land a trick on a day, but I'm turning up to a location generally with the mindset that we're going to go away that day with the clip I wanted to get landed on film. And it would just be good to just turn up there, because I know I can do it. Or, you know, sometimes I've maybe learned the trick off location or something like that, but I know fine well if I just try it, fully committed, even if I crash, it'll probably be fine. But you just can't help have that sort of little bit of doubt that you're going to bottle it. You know, you're doing a front flip of a drop, you're just going to go, oh no. You're going to, you know, let go right at the point and have some horrendous.
Yeah.
You know, it's very much within my control, that. And I do wish I could just switch the fear off at times.
It's kind of good to hear that you're normal though, mate, to be honest. Like, we all suffer that, right? We all think of things that we're totally capable of doing, and we talk ourselves out of them. Yeah. And it's kind of nice to hear that you're dealing with that too.
I'm totally like that. It's funny I don't do it on jumps. You know, I think we were talking earlier saying that I'm not a big jumper on my bike. I don't know what it is about them. Don't really find it particularly satisfying feeling. But I can imagine in mountain biking, it's probably the most common thing that people will deal with, those the emotions I'm talking about there.
Yeah.
It's like a blind lip, having to visualize, you know, the success and how it's, you know, you've got to be able to sort of gauge your speed for it and that kind of thing. Trouble with jumps is that they're just, I don't know. I'm just not very good at them.
Things often go wrong on jumps.
I would say it must be the highest cause of bike accidents out there that are kind of tucking front end on a turn. But I can happily just leave. I would happily actually never hit a jump ever again in my life, I think. On the e-bike, I just like riding steep, fast trails with good catch berm. Yeah. Big steep shoots into a really good catch into another steep corner. Oh, love that stuff.
That's your jam.
Yeah, but jumps. I mean, one of the reasons I moved to Inverness was to learn how to jump, but that's still not happened.
Fair. You've been at this a long time now, like 15 years since Inspired Bikes, and, you know, a good amount of hours and years before that riding street trials. I think Hans Ray's shown that we never need to use the word retirement, but like, I'm a few years older than you, and I'm definitely starting to find it takes longer to recover. I'm feeling some sort of past injuries more than I've ever done in the past, and keeping the body kind of going is harder. Like, you obviously set the bar really high for yourself with your riding. Do you feel like you're still able to deliver at that level? And have you seen any change in your ability to do what you want to do?
Yeah, no, I'm still 38 now, 39 this year, and I can still bunny hop the same height as I've always been able to bunny hop. As I say, maybe I've never actually spent much time training. I've only ever really ridden. I do go in the gym from time to time to recover from an injury, trying to do the physio and all that stuff, but day to day, all I'm riding is e-bike, trials bike, bit of motor trials, and that's really it. And I'm waiting for the day that I can't bunny hop the bar. Maybe that's when I'll start doing some squats or something like that. But I've not noticed any difference in recovery time or anything like that. Still definitely have like back issues a bit, but it's not. It's not really holding me back just yet. But yeah, Hans gave me the very solid advice of never using the word retirement. And I think I'm lucky I don't have to compete, on like a world tour.
Yeah.
And I think it's because my sort of side of my job is very creative, there's just so many avenues still to go down with that. So many ways of entertaining folk using two wheels. Would maybe like to try and do some more sort of work helping some of the younger crew coming up. Although I think they've starting to, I don't know, they kind of maybe understand the way the internet works, so you see it a little bit more. But as long as they're not doing dancing in front of the video, as long as they're not doing those sort of dancing to camera, miming to some of the latest thing on TikTok. I mean, they can do that if they like. Everybody can do it whatever they want, but making original good stuff is the way to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to do it for many more years yet, if I can.
Yeah.
You never know what's around the corner. But I'm still as into riding my bike as I ever have been. In some ways, probably more.
Yeah, so. That's awesome to hear, man. You mentioned that you never really went into that competitive side of things, like competitive trials, but you're in a competitive world, right? You're vying for attention on YouTube. Do you ever think about that in a competitive way versus like the other, like you say, these younger riders that are coming up that maybe are more willing to algorithm please or whatever? Like, does that ever get in your head? Or
no, I've never cared as such. Like I was, as you say, I've never been a competitive person. I didn't like it in school. I used to find it just frustrating when we were playing shinty or football in school and everybody's just arguing, kind of actually caring about stuff. I'm like, we're just playing a game here, guys. And bikes are very much just a game. It can be taken very seriously, made to look like this big thing, but at the end of the day, we're playing around. We're not saving lives. Maybe you could argue whatever, but we're out there playing. And, I get the job of just basically trying to entertain folk, basically entertaining, but you try to just do it in, whatever way you want to do it. Try to just keep it credible. And I feel very lucky that trials seems to work well on these algorithms. I think people can relate to trials a lot more than they can like dirt jump, where unless you've hit a dirt takeoff and land on a landing, it's hard to understand. The best thing to do for dirt would probably be to put something in between the jump that people can relate to.
Yeah.
But trials, because it's slow speed, you can ride along, anything that you can put your two wheels on, tennis nets, spiky fences, things like that. And the outside world can understand it. So I'll keep on milking the trials teat on the algorithms for as long as I can.
The trials teat. Love it. Well, we'll start wrapping up pretty soon, mate, but I wanted just to talk a little bit about fame, right? I think, you went from zero to pretty famous very quickly. I think it's fair to say maybe a little bit resistive, certainly initially, to that. Like, how does fame feel to you? Because you're probably the most recognised mountain biker on the planet, or at least in the top one or two.
I find it all funny, basically. And I kind of feel I've got the same attitude to it that I had from when I started, when it sort of first happened from the bike shop days, that it's just nonsense, really. It is nice. It's cool that it's nice when you kind of get a family or kids come up and say, "Oh, my teacher plays your video, uses it as like a treat, or uses it to show, talk about geography or physics or something like that." I'm like, oh, that's cool.
That's
I wish
really
I had
cool.
that when I was in school. And I am very lucky that 100% of the folk coming up to you are all talking positively. But it's something I certainly never strived for. But I definitely feel incredibly fortunate to be doing what I love doing as a kid. I mean, I was talking to my friends about it the other day when we were finishing a film. I was like, as if we get to do this as a job, yeah. And long may it continue, as to say. But the fame side of it shouldn't be something that you strive for. And probably, unfortunately, it is kind of in your face as a kid way more than we had it maybe when we were younger.
Yeah.
The
internet has definitely done that.
And it can lead you to, I don't know. I can't talk. I mean, I take quite high risks to do, I don't know. It's funny if you actually really thought about it and broke it down. We're like, why am I doing that? But it's just the way it's, I suppose, following on the footsteps from my heroes. I try to do that. So.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, you're very good with it. I've watched you from afar at Fort William at the World Cup spend like 2 hours moving, 30 feet because everyone wants a selfie, everyone wants to talk to you. But you really make an effort.
Well, I think I learned a lot of that from riders like Petey. I think he's always been sort of standout, or Martyn, Ashton, or Hans, the Greg Minar. All of them. I think everybody does a good job.
Yeah.
I think you just don't want to put yourself on a big high horse, because at the end of the day, as I say, it is all a big game. If folk are stoked to come and talk to you, I don't have the pressure. I mean, fair play to any of the racers doing it at Fort William, because you've got big pressure on your shoulders, or whether it's from your own goals or your team or whatever motivates you to fling yourself down the hill as fast as you can. Whereas I'm there, tend to be as a kind of character that might do a show or something like that. Yeah. And it's an easy thing for me to do, is to give folk time when I bump into them. So
yeah.
And luckily it's not Fort William's an extreme, but it's not like it's taken to a level where I'm literally getting hounded constantly. It usually tends to be, at the bike events, and you prepare by you at least admit to yourself it's going to be like that, and maybe carry a Sharpie or two, so rather than having to borrow all the kids' pens,
Yeah.
But I find it all. It's just all it's all just good bit of fun, isn't it?
Yeah. It must open some doors and create some opportunities for you as well. You must have had some amazing experiences.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I could never. I've already, if it was all to finish tomorrow, I've got no regrets, and I've been and done and gotten so much more from the biking world than I could ever possibly sort of dreamed of, or I never had any aspirations to be doing this in the first place, apart from just wanting to do some gap jumps on my trials bike and bits and pieces. So I really do appreciate what I've been able to get to do over the years.
Are there any standout moments from that? I mean, you've been jumping off Red Bull yachts at the Formula One in Monaco and all sorts of crazy stuff, but does anything really stick that this platform has enabled you to do?
I mean, those kind of ones it's not my overall sort of peak. The peak moments are the getting to film on locations with my pals. I would work on these projects where everybody's kind of getting paid to basically go out and make one of these fun bike films, whether it's on rooftops of Gran Canaria, or the sort of bit of some of the buildings in Epiquen, or filming in the middle of San Francisco, sort of downtown, or filming on Alcatraz.
Yeah, that
for
was
instance.
cool.
That's a fairly standout one. Although I was having an absolute nightmare there, but yeah, those are the moments that stand out a lot more. When it's just me and a few of my friends that are there,
Yeah.
all working together, rather than being at this sort of more glitzy. That doesn't interest me as much.
That's fair. Did you once have a drink with Bill Murray though?
We did, yes, yeah.
That's a character I'd like to meet.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. He's carting around with a cane with a GoPro on the top, and it was in Shanghai. Very random night, but yeah, it's good. It was like kind of award ceremony type thing.
Yeah,
and he was the host, just cutting around in a top hat and
quite an eccentric fella.
Yeah, he was cool. He was cool. But yeah, all that kind of stuff is not really it's not my bag at all.
Yeah,
but
you dabbled in stunt double though. You were on was it Premium Rush, a Hollywood film?
Yeah, the film was absolutely shocking. But, it took a lot of coaxing to get me over there. It was doing some stunt doublings for Joseph Gordon-Levitt in like a fixie film about
it's like a courier or something.
Yeah,
right?
messenger around New York, and it was amazing fun. Took one of my best pals, Nash, over, and the stunt work was so easy that I was able to I certainly saw the sort of nightlife of New York every day. It was brilliant fun. Cutting around we borrowed some bikes from Brooklyn Machine Works.
Oh yeah.
And one of the other stunt doubles was this guy Austin Horse, who was he did like alley cat racing, and he would take us out cutting around. But yeah, the stunt work was cool. I mean, if I could ever do any stunt work, I don't know if I'm going to be the right fit for it. But I would love to do some like James Bond stunt work. I don't know if James Bond's ever going to suddenly jump on a bike, and I mean, it's one of the few things that he's probably not done.
Yeah, I was going to say he's been on everything else.
Yeah,
but
I don't know if I'd be the right man for the job these days. I think there's some slightly more glamorous looking folk for it.
Who knows, mate? Put your hat in the ring.
Yeah,
for that
maybe
one.
there's a ginger bearded old sort of wee guy. They need to do some stunt doubling, then I'm your man.
There you go. That would be cool.
It would be. But it is funny doing stunt work where you're not actually doing it for real. I mean, no diss on stunt work. I mean, of course they are tumbling downstairs, but it's all fake.
Like it's all safe.
Yeah. So, it's quite cool getting to make these films for your own. I get to actually sort of play myself.
Yeah.
And I do all my own stunts. So you get all these actors that get all the kudos of being these characters. I mean, you get occasional ones, of course, that do it, but it's quite fun getting to do all your own, stuff.
Yeah.
Aye, that's do enjoy it.
Nice, an interesting journey so far, mate, and plenty to go, I'm sure. Before we wrap up with our final 4 questions, what have you been up to? Can you tease us with anything? We got stuff coming?
Just finished a big project with Adidas 510. I'll not say where we did it, but I was filming with Robbie Mead, good pals Robbie Mead and Chris Seeger.
Okay.
Behind the cameras, and Dave Mackison on the photos, and I'm stoked with it. It's another sort of bigger film, doing some pretty big drops of flat, big for the old body, but survived it, and that should be coming out hopefully September time.
Okay, nice.
And then I'm keen to kind of try to get some more garden antics. Like I've kind of got a house with a wee bit of land, and I'd say it's some of my favourite times, or my favourite riding times in the last few years was, I don't like to say it because it was hard for folk, but in lockdown, I had a good few pallets in the garden.
Yes, I remember seeing
Stony
the videos.
Drive,
yeah.
And I felt quite productive. It was quite. I was enjoying it myself, and I think folk quite enjoyed watching it. So I might get on some more garden kind of antics, and then I'm really, really wanting to try and make. I just cannot get off my e-bike, so I'm like, well, I should really be making this like my full-time job. I need to go and find some cool rocks up top of some mountains and get some good clips up there. So yeah. I mean, autumn's. I've always felt for me, autumn's one of my favorite times of year because you tend to be the strongest. Personally, I feel like I'm the strongest that time. I've been riding all summer.
Yeah.
And I'm usually quite motivated to get some filming done.
And you're fit and healthy and injury free at the moment?
Pretty much. Back's been a little bit. You see me shuffling around on the sofa. Hopefully, I'm not wriggling around too much in this, but it's been a little bit sore. But that, as I say, that's just my own doing. Just not treating myself. Not treating myself very well.
Back into the physio for a little bit.
Yeah. Just need to kind of equal out some things. So.
Yeah, it's not the most fun though, is it, doing all that stuff?
Absolutely not. But it's a means to an end.
Forewarning: the older you get, the more you need to do it.
Yes. Oh yeah. I do have a feeling that I might be having to do a lot of that for the rest of my life, but I'll not regret it, I don't think.
No, for sure, man. It's served you well so far. Well, we're going to wrap up. We've got our final 4 questions that we ask everyone.
Okay.
The first of those: if our listeners had £150 to spend to improve their performance or enjoyment or time on a bike, what would you recommend they go spend it on? They're not going to be able to get a motor for that much, but
£150. Ooh, that is a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, if it's on an e-bike, a chainring's pretty up there.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cheap I mean, I would say that's the biggest upgrade that you could. It's the biggest thing that you could possibly do to an e-bike to make it. You're actually physically getting like 15% extra performance in climbing.
Yeah, it's a big unlock, I guess.
Yeah, hard to say anything else that's really got as much as that. Or hold on, oh no. Shoes. If you're riding flat pedals,
100%. Yeah,
I would say I was actually thinking about that earlier. Weirdly, get yourself a nice pair of 510s with the full black stealth rubber on the bottom. Sorry.
Yeah.
Some Freerider Pros or something like that.
Yeah, definitely helps having a good
10
contact.
out of 10. Yeah. I mean, yeah. What was that? So that's there about 100, 150. Okay. I mean, either when there's a chainring or shoes, and get some large crank brother stamp pedals.
I have a pair. They're very good.
It's a good combo.
Yeah,
a good combo. But yeah,
nice. All right, good stuff.
Yeah.
Second one: if you could wind back the clock and sit down with yourself, age 16, what advice would you give him?
Well, there's too much there. You can't come from the future. You can't beam in from the future and. There's too much to tell. Of course, there's all sorts of, you could be doing all sorts of stuff. To be honest, don't know. I feel like there's more stuff I need to tell myself now to look after. I don't know, replying to things. I'm not good at replying to.
Okay.
I need to. It's something that I feel like I've always been bad at.
I would imagine you have quite a lot of inbound communication.
Yeah, but not really.
No?
I just do. It's silly ones. I like the sort of important ones sort of not get replied to.
Okay.
So
Prioritising.
we probably all do it, but some people are just a bit better at just they think of it and they just do it. But I don't really have much advice for my younger self because it might have changed what I got to now. So
yeah, it's all panned out pretty good.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I'll leave it.
Yeah, let's not touch that. Okay, third one. If you could have a coaching session from anyone, past or present, who would it be, and what would you want to pick their brains on? And again, you've hung out with like a lot of.
But I've really not done much. I mean, coaching's actually like a completely alien concept to me, and I ponder on it at times.
Okay.
I was like, imagine actually having a third party. Of course, I've had physios and I've had trainers sat over me, in a gym, counting reps and tell me to clench my glutes harder or something like that, But I did ponder on like actually having a coach getting you to work on your weaknesses. It was like a completely alien idea for me at all. So I can't really comment, to be honest. I can't really think. I don't really want to go to sports psychologist because it would open up a can of worms. I think it's past. That's you're asking the wrong guy. You're asking the wrong guy with that. I'm not But yeah, I mean, there is something to be said for it, isn't there? Of course. I mean, all your racers these days have got coaches and
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure.
It's
Yeah.
it's a complete foreign concept to me.
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
maybe I should do that in my 40s.
All right. And I think I know the answer to this one, but what's one thing you do every day that you feel benefits you? And I'm assuming it's going to be ride an e-bike, because that seems to be what you do pretty consistently.
I take my riding my e-bike's almost taken to a level where it's like detrimental to my, and you've probably seen the house, it's detrimental to, you know, the actual other things that I'm doing in my life. But I would say going riding every day, trials bike, there's a lot to be said for getting a wee trials bike and doing some, you know, just playing. You can literally just have a single pallet, but it'll teach you a lot of sort of good movement.
Yeah. Are you every day on the trials bike still?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I try to. I've got a few pallets down in the building below. So yeah, try and still get out there.
Very cool. Nice one, man. Well, it's been a real pleasure to sit down and have some time with you and hear your story. Thanks for making the space for us to come and chat. I really appreciate it. If people want to follow you and don't already, which seems crazy, but where are they looking these days?
I suppose there's Instagram. I don't know, Danny MacAskill. Maybe it's got an underscore in between the two.
Okay,
I've not looked for a long while.
I think
there's on YouTube, although I need to upload more videos to YouTube. But if you just search my name there, and then hopefully see you at some bike events sometime soon.
Nice one, man. Thank you very much. All the best for the future. And look forward to seeing the new edit when it comes out in the next few weeks.
Cheers.